So I guess that second arrest took me about 3 months to start eating normally. I think for the first month and a half, I ate sparingly here and there. Couldn't sleep, and I used to be sitting in my cell, and I would stare at this light that would blink all night. It's crazy the things you remember, and I get emotional about something that got me through the night. And I used to always think it was this train that was coming through town, and for some reason I just stared at it. And I don't know why I remember that, honestly, but it got me through the night a lot with my withdrawals, from jumping off my bunk and puking. But so about 3 months I started eating a little bit normally, and about 6 months I started thinking clearly. Finally I call it drug brain, like a foggy brain, because through all your addiction, you think you're running this life that's like this perfect life, and you have no concept to reality because you're such an addict. But so after that 6 months, I started getting rid of that fog brain and realizing all this destruction I've done to my family over this 13 years. Not just my family, my girlfriends, friends. It was an eye-opener. It was crazy to think about that, and I guess I never put it into perspective of 13 years of having that drug brain and thinking I was never an addict. And that second time being locked up, I think it's step number one. I'm not a big step person, but step number one is admitting you're an addict, and that's the hardest thing. And I never admitted I was an addict. Never. All those stories, the two stories, I mean, come on, those are totally what an addict would do. I mean, it's terrible. So I never admitted I was an addict. Finally I did. Finally I realized, man, look what you're doing with your life. I mean, look at the relationships. You're going to have to start over again. I knew I was getting a bunch of time in prison. I was facing 27 years, had no plea deal, had an open sentencing, which means you have no plea deal. Like the judge and the prosecutor doesn't say, well, hey, if you plead guilty to this and this, you're just going to get 5 years. I went into the courtroom and was facing 27 years. The judge decided to give me a 5 to 9. So, which means in Wyoming, they sentence it's like a 5 years max, 9 years max, 5 years of good if you make good time. It's kind of hard to explain. I really don't know it all myself, but I'm still working on that 5 to 9. I got another year and a half left of parole. Getting locked up though, this time saved my life. I told my mom at that moment of my arrest, I didn't choose to get clean. You know, I was forced to get clean, because if I didn't get arrested, I was going to stay doing drugs. And I was mixing, at that moment too, I was mixing my cocaine in with my heroin. And I mean, that's a speedball for people that don't know, and you're just pretty much asking yourself to die. So now I choose to stay clean, which is, so definitely, all that good time. I did 4.5 years, counting my halfway house time. I changed my whole mentality, started making goals for myself. I worked out twice a day in prison. I was never one for setting goals, I guess, unless it was due to sports. People that know me, I was all about sports. So setting goals, paying my bills on time, getting out and realizing I'm going to ride a bike for 13 months while I was in my halfway house. Those are just weird goals, just to save money. In prison, I did the ITU program. It was a 9-month program. You get about 50% of the people that want to do the program. I was the 50% that wanted to do the program. I ended up becoming assistant head of house. And we had a bunch of small groups that I wrote a bunch of papers in that helped out a lot about some of the destruction I did with my family members, my mom, my cousin, my aunt and uncle. Crying with these men in prison. Some of them I still talk to today. Helped me out a lot. Definitely said people that had the same story as me, people that have robbed from their family. So I ended up getting out and got sent to a halfway house in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is the capital of Wyoming. And I had to do more classes, did those, passed those fine. Went and got a job at my old company that I worked in when I lived in Laramie, Wyoming, before I got arrested. And pilot Flying J, who I still work with to this day. And started a new chapter going to the halfway house in my life. Like I said, I got a bicycle, and my goal was, I got there in September. My goal was to ride a bike for 13 months. And if anybody knows Wyoming, especially Cheyenne, it's probably one of the windiest states, and Cheyenne is the windiest place in the world. So, 13 months of riding about 5 miles to work, it sucked. but my ride home every night made it so worthwhile to see the stars. And I mean, there wasn't a night that I didn't, I guess I should back up a little bit. So I lost my father when I was in prison. And I was named after my father. I'm a mommy's boy, but if anybody knows me, I was named after my father. And me and my father had our ups and downs, but if there's one thing my father could do was relate to being locked up, could say things, if anybody knows him, could say things that, you know, he's an original guy. He's just one of a kind. And my last couple months of him dying, he died of cancer. My last couple of months of him dying, some of the conversations I had with him were some of the best conversations I've ever had in my life. You know, I apologized to him for what I did, and I told my father, I told my mother that, again, nothing they did turned me into an addict, and that they were great parents. You know, they weren't perfect, but what parents are? You know, nobody's perfect. There's no book that tells you how to be a parent. So I think it was important for me to say that to my father. And so every night, riding home and seeing the stars, I was listening to Widespread Panic, Grateful Dead. Everybody knows me. Those are pretty much my two favorite bands. I talked to my father every night. And I said prayers, thanking him for giving me strength to getting through what I went through, you know, or I need help to make a decision, whether you can tell me what to do or not. There was actually one night I was riding home, and I see these huge wings, this huge like shadow all over me, and I stopped my bike and I looked to the right, and my mom's a huge owl fanatic. She's got an owl tattoo on her leg. And I turn and look, and there's this huge owl on a light pole. And like, I'm a firm believer that you see things for certain reasons. And I think I called my mom the next day, and I was like, Dad was definitely, you know, saying hi to me that night. So I guess I spent a lot of time though talking to him on bike rides home. I guess that made the deal with the windiness during the day. It sucked though. And the snow. So September, 13 months, all winter, snow. I think I missed about 4 or 5 days riding my bike. I walked to work a couple days. And that was all just motivation because I wanted to save money to buy a car. You know, when I got out of the halfway house, you could buy a car in the halfway house, but you got to pay for it outright. And I wanted to save as much money as I can and buy what I wanted when I get out. I didn't buy right away what I wanted. I bought a 2002 Nissan Frontier with 1 million miles on it, but served the purpose. So let me see. I stayed right up free in the halfway house. Was in the incentive room, which is like you get a fridge about this size. I I was able to go to the mall. There's special things in life, have a fridge that big in the mall, Those are the things we all do every day, and yet, really. So, but it was important at that time. It was important for me. I was able to also go to parks, which was cool, so I can walk around and not have to be like in a halfway house. You pretty much have to call everywhere you go. When you get to a place, you're supposed to use the phone and call. When you're in the incentive room, you don't have to do that. I guess that was all just my motivation of just trying to get where I am and kind of change my whole perspective on life. So 13 months, bought a Nissan Frontier, got out, got an apartment, stayed working at Flanigan, and bought a plane ticket back home to Connecticut for the first time in 8 years. I was going to see my mom for the first time since my father died. I was going to see my cousin for the first time and my aunt and uncle for the first time since I, did stupid shit to them. And I was going to make amends. And making amends with people, it was probably, last year coming home was probably the greatest moment of my life. All the soccer games I've been through and everything, I think last year might have been the greatest moment to see some of my friends, to make amends to. See my mom, my cousin, my grandma. The best thing about it is they all made it so easy for me. I mean, I don't want to, it's not an easy thing for you to do. And my cousin said he didn't want to hear about it. Like here. But he was going to hear about it, and he did. And I said, it might not be for you, but it was for me because I needed to do that. So, Mom and Gray, of course, they're forgiving of most everything, but I think the key thing in amends, and I think even for me, as hard as it is to think about, is to forgive but never forget. I guess you never want to forget where you came from, of what you did, because once you start getting complacent in addiction, you're gonna fuck up. Excuse my language, but you're gonna mess up. You're gonna get back to doing what you're doing, and I think humble and saying humble is probably one of them. It's a huge word, and I say it a lot, and people say it to me a lot. I think I apologized to every single friend when I came back. Like I said, some of my friends were like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I said, you realize I wasn't the friend. I wasn't the laughing person. I wasn't the joking, trash-talking person who I normally am. And you might not have noticed it, but I noticed it. And it was important to me, and so it's always going to be something I think about that last year coming home. I guess that whole trip could have never gone any better than, I don't know, it's amazing. My mom asked me, I think about, a month or two ago, she asked what clicked to get me clean. And I said, I don't have an answer, just a short answer. That's not something you just say, well, my father died, I robbed from people, and I don't want to do that anymore. I've gone through withdrawals, I don't want to deal with that anymore. So I want to just read, I guess, what I wrote to her. It was a bunch of things. It was a bunch of things throughout my whole time locked up. I guess my thoughts from day one getting locked up started with me being tired of getting sick, from not having my drugs, also with the time I spent selling and getting drugs instead of enjoying life. Having to have the drug to just function. What the fuck is that for life? Just realizing all my relationships that I lost and how hard I had to work to get them back. Never will I have them again. Knowing who I am as a person, the real Jayson, and knowing that during my addiction I was not the real Jayson, and wanting myself back. Seeing all I lost with friends, family. We all say possessions don't matter, but they always do. Pawning stuff for drugs, getting pennies on the dollar. All the people I know who have overdosed and died, wow, it's a scary thought. definitely in double digits of family members and friends that OD'd and died, and still dealing with it in the family. I have a brother, so deal with him daily on it. Talking to you, Mom, hearing about weddings, seeing people, and again, realizing that I was locked up and missing all that. I missed one of my best friend's wedding. I get to hear about it from my mom while I was locked up. I'm sure I missed to hear a story of people jumping over cones and having fun late night. 13 years of me being the person I should have been to the people that needed me. Always remind myself of that. Screwing over family and friends because of the drugs. That's not who I am. Lex, Aunt Mary, Uncle Wayne, my mom, and Gray, wow, that hurt me. Always remind myself of what I could have been, from soccer to my girlfriends to already having kids. Then when Dad got sick, how could you not be there for your mom and Dad? It worked out for the better that you both got time together, but I lost my father while I was locked up in prison. I could handle that because I was sober. So then in prison, when I had to revisit all of this through my papers and drug classes, a reminder. There are a lot of people out there that all this has happened to them, but they never made it through. Well, I'm going to be the person that does. I resort back now to the person I was. Those pictures Mom who posted of me in sports, the passion, motivation, and love. I would never do it any other way. I am who I am because of this. But to say I don't have regrets, still, that would be a lie. Sometimes I think what should have, could have, would have. My father always used to say that. Should have, could have, would have. You probably heard that before. He said a lot of other stuff, but I can't really get into that. So, yeah. But it is what it is. And my mom and I say there's a reason for everything. And why I'm out here in Wyoming, or why I'm here today. Or the people's paths I crossed. People needed me where I am. Now what keeps me clicking is all that. All my past sports I have played at a high level, my passion in life. Every being of every day. I never forget where I came from, never. I try to stay humble. I remember all that I've built back in my life and how fast and easy it would be to lose it. So Mom and Gray's my grandma, that answer is a long and complicated one, and that answer could be different coming from every drug addict. For me, that's what it takes. For me, I think that's why I succeeded so well. And for me, that's why I will stay with this passion, that love, that heart and soul for life. I guess if I had an answer to addiction, I guess I say addiction. I was saying earlier, if I was thinking to myself, if I had an answer to addiction, I wouldn't be here today, but maybe I would be here today talking about it. But I probably would be doing it for a living, and I don't know, maybe have more money because I'd be famous because I had an answer for addiction. But the fact is I don't. But I have hope for people that they can go through as much bullshit as I've gone through and put myself through, that you can get clean now. And yeah, so now I'm still working for Flanigan. I've been with them for about 2.5 years. I started out in maintenance, cleaning toilets, showers, worked my way up. I'm second in line in the store. If anybody doesn't know what Flanigan is, it's a truck stop. We're the biggest outfit in the United States. We have over 600 stores, 27,000 employees. They overrode all my felonies. I had 4 felonies. I had a meeting with the head HR on the West Coast. They overrode all that, and nobody in my company can see any of my felonies anymore. I'm deli manager. It's not. I needed to go through the deli to kind of learn every aspect of the company. It's not my passion. I want to get back to the fuel desk. I like dealing with people and dealing with my drivers, but it's a good stepping stone. Again, I'm second in line in the store, and still have hopes to getting my own store hopefully within a year. About 8 months ago when I got promoted, I bought a 2012 Jeep Cherokee Overland, fully loaded, probably the nicest vehicle I've ever had. I love it. Couldn't do that. I got rid of the 2002 Nissan Frontier that had about 300,000 miles on it, so the Jeep is a lot nicer. I bought a cat. If anybody knows me on Facebook, they know my cat JoJo. I'll be clean 5 years, March 20th. Thank you. I just want to read something else. My mom sent me this at the halfway house about sobriety. And sobriety is not for the faint of heart. We have to want it more than anything we ever have before. And when you have that moment of clarity and truth and commitment, then the whole world and all its crazy beauty opens up to us. And my mom sent me that, and I just like to end with that. So I appreciate listening to me. I hope I did good. Unless it was due to sports, whoever know people that know me, I was all about sports. So